What's going on, everybody? I am BirdDogJon. Thanks for joining us today, and we are going to kick things off here. It is 1 a.m. in Melbourne right now, and that is exactly where I am. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Robbie to the show. What's going on, man? All right, let's see. Hey, what's going on, Judson?
Hey, thanks for having me.
I do much more. We are joined with BirdDog Ian, who is at the Capture Summit over in Atlanta. So how's it going, man?
Hot and sweaty.
That's the most important question that our team can ask. Why are you needing this camera?
Now, I haven't tested this thing since it got here. This is something that I'm really excited that NDI did. That's cool. Obviously, there are lots of flavors here, but this is the 4250 line. And our little friend here. Say hello to my little friend. It's brewing in the back of my throat. Based on the recommendation of Senseless, we're going to give a Java Monster a try.
Oh, yeah, Pocky,
We
dude.
got a little Pocky, and
Yes.
I have been putting this off for an age.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
There is a Snacks on Stream mystery box brought to you by my Snacks on Stream manager, Break. What's going on, Bugsy?
There you go. What's going on? Balu, good to see you, man.
What's going on, NetHab? Hey, what's going on, Judson? And hey, Kevin, good to see you, man. What's going on, Jeremy? How are you? Thanks for jumping on. Oh, it's all good. That's right. It's another fantastical hour of at least 1 hour of chatting about bird dog stuff. What's going on, everybody? I am BirdDogJon. Hopefully you are doing well. I'm going to jump over to YouTube as I normally do, and I see that my network is just completely maxed out, so that's amazing. I love it when that happens. All right, I can see and hear my audio over on YouTube, so that's good news. Let's hope that this maxed out CPU issue is going to go away, and like always, it probably won't. But anyways, good times. I see the chat has been very busy. The chat actually started at 2:02 this morning. Somebody had some questions about Central, so we'll kind of get through some of that stuff. But thank you for jumping on. Really appreciate it from wherever you are hailing from. If you want to chat with us, be sure that the best place to do is BirdDogJon.tv. That will take you to my YouTube channel. You can drop things there in your comments in the chat there as we kind of go over things today. Also subscribe to that channel, because that is where we put the majority of everything we do from the support desk, from this studio. We put it up there. We also put it up in various other places, but that is the place where all of this content will be. So feel free to follow us there. Follow us over on the BirdDog TV YouTube page. That's a good place as well for all the promotional stuff and sales stuff and product announcements and all that. So jump over there and subscribe to those. We would appreciate that greatly. All right, yeah, we'll toss some of these. How's it going, Daniel? Thanks for jumping on the stream here this morning. Appreciate it, or wherever you are, I guess. Benjamin, hello. How's it going? BirdDogJon is the king of darkness. Oh, jeez. I don't know. I don't know what. Maybe it's just my studio that you're commenting on, but which is true. It's very possible. There's a little lag between video and audio today. Okay, so let's check that out. Let's see what we can do about that. It does look like it might be coming from vMix. That's actually not too bad on YouTube, but it does look like vMix is struggle busting it here with chewing up some CPU. So we may be at a loss. I may be at a loss there. However, it doesn't really matter about me today because as you can tell from the title, and it's been out there for a couple of days now, and we announced this on Tuesday, we're going to bring BirdDogJake back onto the show today, and we are going to go over the new Central update. And so Central 2.0 took a little bit of figuring out what the official title of this new Central program is, because Cloud is 3.0. This is Central 2.0. There's a lot of iterations of software and stuff coming out, so we had to get that right. But officially, it is now being known as Central 2.0. So we'll go with that. And without much further ado, I'm going to bring my buddy Jake onto the show. So how's it going, Jake?
Hey, John. How's it going today?
Doing all right. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Now, before we get into this,
Sure.
I shipped Jake something. And it's something
Yes.
that I have in my office as well. And so today we're going to do a little snacks on stream.
Snacks on stream with some hazardous sour candy, John.
Hazardous
What did you send me?
toxic waste. I've never had this before. I have no idea what it is. I'm going to go with the purple.
Cool.
So yeah,
On the green.
Jake's actually going to join me in this, and so let's bumper this snacks on
Welcome
stream
back.
intro.
John's
Here we
just
go.
making up stuff to start drama.
Look, I don't know.
Look at him.
Wish me luck, folks. It's my first Vegemite experience.
Final, this is like cheese flavor or something. It doesn't really look too appetizing.
Good golly, this is something else, man.
Here's the thing about Pop Rocks, and I don't know if I'm the only one like this. Pop Rocks have always been a social experience for me.
I did not think that is what you were going to say. That's hilarious.
That is awful. Oh, God, that's so bad. Jeez. Holy smokes, man.
All right, so it's official. We are definitely going to try out whatever this is. Toxic waste. I've never tried it. I've taken
They
the
look like some warheads.
plastic wrapper off. Oh, they're like teeny tiny bags.
I know. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, me neither. I thought it was just like one big bag. Okay, so here we go. Let's see here. Can I switch this overhead view and then? Wow, I'm dropping frames like crazy here.
I got one of those as well.
Yeah, so a little toxic waste. I have the purple can, but I guess it doesn't really matter which one we go with because they're
Look
probably
at all
the
these,
same.
man. Like,
Yeah.
what flavors do we got? We have
Oh.
raspberry, right?
Wait, what's this white one?
What is the white one?
Mystery flavor.
Ooh.
All right, folks, let us know. Should we go with a predictable flavor or a mystery flavor? You have to throw that up in the comments, but yeah, there it is. It's I have no idea what it is that I'm getting into. And yeah, check out all of those stinking drop frames. So let's close this. Let's see if I can relieve some of my CPU's obligations here. I bet you any money it's this. It's probably Windows scanning for things in the background. And all right, let's quit this. What is this? NDI remote? Yeah, let's quit that.
They're almost on par with the buttons on the Stream Deck.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. Yeah, so here we go. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to try. I guess I'm just going to go with the mystery flavor, as that seems to be if I'm going to try anything, it Might as well not make it predictable.
All right, let's do it.
So let's go with that. So the goal of this will be now we're gonna talk about Central 2.0 while ingesting something super sour. So
Yep. We'll see how well that goes.
this candy, yeah, here we go. Okay, so wish us
I got a
luck.
red one.
Here we go. Yeah, me too.
Oh, that's that's like a warhead. Yep.
Oh, but it's like
Oh.
it like kind of
It takes a bit to open up.
it has a very like urinal puck smell to it. Yeah, yikes. All right.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah. We'll see if we
Let's see how well this goes.
see if we can keep our focus here. All right.
I don't think this is going to pair well with my coffee.
Oh gosh, that'd be brutal. And Brayton sent me another Celsius, which we've tried once before. This is the sparkling orange flavor, which evidently is better than the one that I tried last time. So
Right.
yeah, we'll see. Let me just run through the comments here real quick, and then we can jump into Central. And actually, the first whole string that came in this morning, we'll jump back to that because that's actually specifically about Central. So does anybody know any good footage used at a football game or a basketball game and considering using it for sports streaming? P200s. Also seeing if cloud would be, if we could implement that for remote production. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I would send a quick email over to hello@birddog.tv because those sales guys probably have a few use cases hanging around that
We
they
have
can.
a bunch of YouTube videos going around and use case user stories with the P200. Yeah, those are used in sports all the time, either indoor basketball, outdoor for quick pop-ups on tripods, yeah. So we'll send you those.
Yeah, so there's an option at least there, River Radio. Shoot an email over to hello. They might be able to point you in the direction of a few videos. I don't have any like sitting here at my studio, but it's probably not a bad idea to find
And then to the next part of that, as long as those cameras are connected to a computer that has access to the internet, then you can install BirdDog Cloud 3 and have complete remote control of all those cameras.
Yeah, there you go.
From anywhere in the world. So
yeah. Hey, you got me with that intro. I thought you were actually here. Yeah, that's only happened once. I'm assuming you're talking about the Australian trip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little inconsistent. Maybe the encoder more than an actual delay. It's true. And I'm watching though. My CPU keeps jumping up to like 95%, which is what's causing it.
Yeah.
But clearly, it's in like I can see it freezing in vMix too. So I'm not too sure what to do about that. I probably should have gone with my original idea and casted this from a secondary machine, which is I'm definitely gonna do that on.
So do you send RTMP up to StreamYard, or what's that input?
No, it's really just a webcam input, and so I use NDI web.
Got it.
The final vMix NDI signal.
Cool.
And then I add this microphone separately.
Nice.
But yeah, clearly dropping frames. I'm also curious if perhaps like it's dropping it on all cameras. This is the P110 that's up in the corner, and it's consistently dropping it with the other. So it's probably just the computer's not able to keep up with the demand.
Sure.
So yeah, I'll have that's strange because it's a new issue since. You know what? It might actually be the switch. I may have overloaded the switch. I added a 400.
Okay.
To the studio, so it's like a fourth shot, and definitely causing some of this. And maybe I'll check.
So that's what happens inside vMix. It doesn't pull the NDI proxy streams. So all of the streams that you have pulled in are going to be that full bandwidth, provided it is a full bandwidth NDI signal.
So if I drop that, let's just go here and delete.
Yeah, if you remove it from your input, it should lighten the load on that.
All right. Oh, yep, it totally did. I just totally deleted it, and now things are a lot better. Interesting.
So that's why the TriCasters are really cool, because they can pull that proxy stream on any of the inputs. So it's not pulling the full bandwidth until it needs to, until it's live. And then I believe the same thing happens with VisVector and all that stuff.
Well, I have a TriCaster. It's just a little loud.
Yeah.
I could. All right. Well, anyways, we'll fix my problems later. But yeah, getting rid of that 400 shot seemed to have smoothed things out. So good call. Okay, so namaste from India. Hey, Go Web. I heard a rumor from you about you that you got everything kind of squared away. So thanks, John. Renaming the P110 to default Bird Dog worked. I got tracking working again. Big thanks to Clay. That's senseless. Big thanks to Clay to taking remote assist for me, solving these issues I was facing. Bird Dog support. Shout out. Yeah, awesome stuff, man. Clay had sent me a note and just said, hey, this guy's all squared away. He's pretty happy with things. So that's great. Glad to hear it. Is vMix using hardware GPU encoding? Great question. I will look into that when we get underway with talking about Central. Curious how you'd pair vMix and StreamYard together. An interesting choice. Yeah, I just output vMix output 1 to NDI and then just convert it over to a USB webcam option with NDI and then bring it into StreamYard. And that gives me then the flexibility to move around. Like, I primarily still want vMix now, but quote of the day, want vMix for the playlist function. And so, and we're still dropping a few frames here and there, primarily for the playlist function. And so you have to see about the GPU encoding. I probably have to restart it if I change that. But anyways, let's keep going. Hello from Nairobi. How's it going? Thanks for jumping on with us today.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah. I ate those in primary school. We're talking about warheads here, or toxic waste, which are like warhead comparisons. Mine's not sour anymore. Is yours sour?
Not sour.
Yeah, not sour. I ate these in primary school, like they were going out of style, and too many tongue blisters. Good to know. But Ian says blue is best, so maybe that's the next one we go with.
Yep.
I'm continually amazed by people who seek to run vMix without NVIDIA GPU. All right. John, is your cam dropping frames? It was, and probably still is. River says, thanks. Is there any way to detect that behavior by pulling the proxy streams before going into the program? Would be curious to see. See, it's odd to me that vMix chooses not to use the proxy streams, or at least maybe they haven't figured out how. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the proxy stream thing, like TriCaster gets away with having 16 sources because they just are looking at like 3 meg, 4 meg source proxy streams.
Yep.
So
yeah, I'm curious how Livestream 6 does that as well. So
yeah,
that was a fun program. It's like by Vimeo and their team, right?
Yes.
Last time I checked, I think.
Yeah. Sanaya saying hello, John and Jake. Hey, what's going on, Sanaya? Good to see you. Thanks for coming back onto the show. Why is your first name the company name? BirdDogJon or Jake? Okay, so that that's something that I tagged on this show long ago. Just called myself BirdDogJon, and I'm pretty sure somebody said it to me, and I was like, oh, I'll just add that as my tagline on my online show.
Yep. And
then when we started hiring a lot more people, then people just started calling themselves like BirdDogJake, BirdDog Ian, all those guys. So
we got BirdDog Dave too.
Yeah, BirdDog Dave, he's around. So it just kind of stuck. Some of us just decided to use it, and that's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, what did I miss? Okay, so real quick, I received a Central link. This is from somebody this morning who's probably not watching the show right now, but with Central 2, you can install the application on any Windows machine on your network and access it. Okay, so we'll talk about that. It only works on Windows. We'll talk about that and what options you have. The download file is an exe right now. I've in there was also a PDF picture, and it shows a Mac running the software. So is there a Mac version? Okay, so these are all questions that we're going to probably go down here with Jake's presentation. So here we go. The big moment is we want to talk about Central. That's the whole purpose of today's show. And there's a big update that's coming for it. And Jake is going to walk us through kind of from the beginning, after install, and then we'll go down a few rabbit holes about things that you can use it for now and what makes it so great. So, Jake, I'm going to give you the reins. I'll monitor the chat like we did on Tuesday.
Sounds great.
And
Let
we'll
me
go down
pop
there
over to the screen. All right, so guys, this is our Central 2.0 interface. As we can see that this is accessible via web browser. So it's essentially a web server that exists on your network that we're able to access from any computer that is on the same network as Central 2.0. So this right here, we're going to start from Central 2.0 Lite version. On our left-hand side of all the programs, we have our NDI sources. So here's my PF120. I have a couple of sources from Central being generated by a router from another computer on my network. I have a few NDI to Dante bridge NDI streams on here as well, which we'll jump into why that's super important. And then a couple cameras. So over here, if we add in our activation license, we'll pop over to Central Pro. With Central Pro, on our source list on the side, we have the ability to add groups. So if I wanted to create a new software group to organize my sources, right, we can add any of the sources I have on the right-hand side. So here was my Premiere laptop. We have a vMix video output. We also have a couple of generator sources from Central. So we can put any and all sources into groups, so that way we can organize them. Those will appear on this side. On the right-hand side, we have all of our BirdDog decoders. And I specifically want to make sure that we know that these are BirdDog decoder sources. So like BirdDog plays, we have the flex outs, 4K, HDMI, and SDIs and quads in decode mode, right? So all of those devices will be able to show up on the right-hand side. And what we would do is we would say, hey, I want to move this camera. We'll select that on the left-hand side, and we want to make sure that we want to connect it to our BirdDog Play or our Flex out. So we'd select that and press connect. If I had an extra monitor, I'd show this over here, but this connected over to that PF120 that I had selected. On the other side, you could also have destination groups. So if you have, let's say this is a meeting room, right? That has a couple of screens on there, right? We call this meeting room 1. And we want to add our BirdDog plays and our other decoders into the group. So that way, if we wanted to change multiple sources at the same time, we can have those connect to that single stream. So this is very, very useful for NDI digital signage now. So if you have 10, 20 screens with a bunch of plays on them and you need to kick over an NDI source to all of them instantaneously, that's what Central's for. NDI routing. Should we jump into the middle modules, John, at this point?
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into that.
Cool. So this is my favorite edition. This is essentially the two in Central. So we have virtual NDI router sources now. So much like the NDI tools in NDI 5.1, I believe it is, there's a virtual router source, which I believe, John, you talked about a couple times on the stream so far, right?
Yes, very much so.
So this is a very, very similar thing, except that exists in the web browser. So over here, I have a video router, right? So I have my preview stream of my P100 that's getting sent into my cameras group, right? I have my PF120 overhead camera, and I have a P200 behind me. So right now in StreamYard, I'm currently using this, let's see, this video router to select my sources, right? So if I pop back over to my my screen capture, when I click this source, the source that's getting sent over to StreamYard changes. So I'll go ahead and click my PF120, and now that kicks right over. Again, I can kick over to my P200. So we have instantaneous switching right through a web browser to that virtual NDI source. if you noticed right there, I'm also using the Stream Deck to do an API call to change that video router source.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
It's incredible, and it's instantaneous too, which is super useful. So instead of having to have either Central 2.0 up on a web browser, you can have your Stream Deck call out to the central server and do those switches for you. I have another router over here called PTZ router. So let me pull up NDI Studio Monitor just so you can see a couple of things that are going on over here. So I have another source called AV Matrix, and that's from our Retransmitter module, which is down over here. Retransmitter is kind of similar to router, except we have the ability to merge audio and video sources together. So if I call this, let's see, Retransmitter number 2, right, just as an example, I'll be able to select what camera source I want live, and then I have the ability to select what audio source I want live. So these are all my NDI streams that would pull the audio channel from. So if I pull one of my, let's see, if we pull this Silicone 2 video as my audio stream, and I click down over here, we can see that for video, I'm subscribed to the PF120, and for the audio, I'm subscribed to my central stream. And here, I'll go ahead and press play. So if we go over to Central 2.0 now, I have a new input called Retransmitter. And I now have that PF120 live with my audio from a different NDI stream.
So can you give us a couple of use case scenarios where a retransmitter might be super helpful?
Totally. So let's say you have your NDI cameras on your network, and you don't have the ability to feed a line level audio to the input, right? So what you could do there is you can have your NDI audio source, which maybe it's the program audio output from vMix, and be able to merge that to your ISO cameras. So I've used that to take my microphones and add them to all my cameras without having to, again, feed that analog line input into the device.
Gotcha.
You could also do that to send the final program audio. So if you want to, if you're doing a live stream and you need to recut it later and whatnot, but you need that ISO feeds with the final audio, you can do that as well. Another thing would be, so let's say you're in a meeting room and you want to be able to push the audio from someone else's laptop that's being encoded into a flex input or a wall plate or things like that. Just being able to grab any NDI source, video and audio, and mix them together is pretty incredible. So this other NDI monitor, so let's go over here. So on my right-hand side, that's going to be my PF120 top-down screen, so you guys can see the switching in action. On the right-hand side, that's my BirdDog Central retransmitter. So if I want my retransmitter to look at my P100, here we are, right? If I want to kick over to my P200 that I have, switching instantaneously, right? If we wanted to kick over to something that we didn't chat about, which is the generator module. So if I pop on over to, let's say, Silicone 2, we now have a loop playlist going inside Central, which we'll talk about really, really soon. I could pop over to the screen capture. Let's see. Or the Apple TV that I don't have live anymore. Let's see. There we go. Right. So that was from our Cloud Connect demo on Tuesday. So instantaneous switching between these sources, right? All API control.
Yeah, now it can be programmed on Stream Deck and X keys and
Too incredible. It's super useful. So use cases for, routing this around. I mean, absolutely all the meeting rooms, right? The AV spaces, the corporate spaces that need to route some stuff around to any and all their displays. Or have, a master NDI webcam source, like let's say from vMix, like from your production feed into router, and then being able to tie that with any other NDI stream.
So what about the, like, I noticed that you're on a web UI now. So talk about the redesign there.
Sure. So it's a web server based now. So essentially there's a little, let me see if I scoot this down, that awesome. So there's a little icon down over here for Central, the install. So instead of it being just like on a local one person machine access, we wanted to be able to have the remote accessibility through the network, right? So if I right clicked there, and I'll be brought to my my home screen, right?
Right.
So super useful for anyone else to be able to, jump in and do some routing and control. So if we need to, switch the sources around, we have the ability to do that.
Yeah. So now we're talking about having a central hub on your NDI network and being able to now pull it up on touch devices based on web-based stuff instead of it needing to be a Windows machine, which goes back to one of those original questions that we had early in the show about, is this a Windows only install? Is there a Mac version? Well, you install it on a Windows machine as of today, you install it on a Windows machine and it runs on a Windows machine, but then you can take any device and access the web UI and from anywhere on your NDI network. So you
provided they're on the network.
Right. Yeah. Provided that you're on your proper NDI network, which we talk ad nauseum about on this channel. So
yes, we do.
Pretty great stuff. Pretty great to centralize a lot of this. It's going to feed into a larger philosophy of how we do software at BirdDog, and so this is kind of the first peek at how that's intentionally been designed to be used, because we're running into all sorts of problems, and anybody that's used Central or Comms or any of the other ones for that matter up until now, you got to install it with run as admin. You got to basically turn off your Windows firewall. There's like a whole bunch of things that you have to do just to get the thing to work.
No, this one's pretty much up and running as soon as you install it.
Yes,
which is fantastic.
It's a total redesign with Central to allow it to be accessed like this across the network. And now, like, one of the questions we had was like, okay, an AV installer, he wants to quickly be able to train somebody on how to use, how to switch sources on a decoder. And so he can now provide them with the website basically. And you can, if you're network savvy, you can assign, like
a host
DNS,
name,
a DNS redirect. So that it can be like, community church dot central dot whatever, and they just go to that site. They don't have to remember an IP address. It becomes a lot simpler to use. Or you can go the step further, like what Jake is showing here, and just run API commands, and you run this in the background, and then they
don't even know that it's there.
They don't even know it's happening. They just make sure that computer's running and all the API stuff works. So there's this big integration push that we're trying to make sure that it's seamless for the end user, and installers are willing to get kind of sophisticated with it, and that's great, because once we hand them the API documentation, basically they integrate this into not just Stream Deck or X key.
No, this is going into Crestron control panels. It's going into QSys. I'm trying to get this tied into like a bunch of Densitron stuff, who's already using our IDS and stuff for our cameras. So being able to API control any of our software is completely advantageous.
We did an interview at NAB with Densitron, and they were really keen about give us more of the raw data, like the API stuff, because we can use that and then leverage your product to do whatever we need it to do. So it's a very interesting development. And I mean, me personally, I feel like it proves couple of things, but like the BirdDog guys are listening to the grander scheme of how our products need to integrate overall.
Yep.
And so seeing this stuff kind of come to fruition is really exciting. You want to take a couple questions while we're here?
Yeah, let's do it. And then I want to jump into the generator module, and then one of my favorite things that you can do with these virtual router sources is tie them into the PTZ keyboard.
Yeah. So
let's do some questions first.
Yeah, let's jump in. So is there any chatter with Central about integrating Dante, routing Dante audio?
Totally. So let's see. I have Dante NDI bridge running, and it's currently listening to my microphone and a couple of other Dante devices that I have on my network. Just for information, my Sennheiser MK-EU600, I believe, is being fed into a Dante preamplifier by Focusrite called the RedNet X2P. That has 2 inputs on it, and then that's being fed into Dante NDI bridge, which is translating those Dante only audio streams. Yeah, let's just pop on over here. So here's Dante controller, right? So I have my RedNet X2P transmitting into BirdDog Dante bridge, right? So this is where I'm grabbing that one microphone and putting it onto channel 2. So I have a stereo on each, one on each side.
Right.
And then flipping that into an NDI only channel, an NDI audio only channel rather. So inside my BirdDog or inside my master PC, because we see my Dante audio interfaces and that RedNet X2P. So where that ties in use case, which is my favorite, is being able to add an audio input device from Dante that's on your network, throw that into NDI, so that way we can then merge that with Retransmitter. So if you have Sennheiser ceiling microphones, Shure ceiling microphones, Dante preamps like what I'm using, or any Dante source that's on the network, maybe there's something coming from Pro Tools or from Apple Logic or something like that. Any digital audio workstation that's transmitting it to Dante now can be flipped into NDI and then be able to be added with Retransmitter.
Nice. Yeah, that's great, man. Can you explain how what the process is for setting up a retransmitter source? He corrected himself later on and said retransmitter.
Sure. Happy to. So we'll pop on over here. If we jump into the retransmitter module, all of the modules inside Central have these 3 dots in the top right corners. From there, you'll see all of your current streams. So if you want to edit one that's currently live, or if you want to create a new one. So if we go over to our plus sign up at the top, so we can call this RTXN 2, or let's do number 3 rather. So click that plus sign so that it pops on over to this page. And then from here, I can scroll down to see any of my NDI streams. So the first one that we would select would be the video source. So let's say I'm going to do Central generator, which I want to jump into. And then if I want to do audio, I can grab any other separate NDI audio device. So let's pop over to my RedNet audio input, right? So now I press OK. Over here, it's not currently live yet. So we'll go ahead and connect that. And then lastly, we'll pop on over to Studio Monitor. And inside the Central 2.0, we now have our Retransmitter 3, which has, let's see. Hello, hello. I think I muted my audio on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it silent. So let's see if that's going through now. Retransmitter.
So that's taking your laptop. Wait, what stream did you pick for that one?
So let me just pop on over to this one real quick, just because I know this one's live. So that's our AV matrix, which right now it's currently listening to my my Dante device that doesn't have anything on it. So I'm going to kick over to my microphone. Oh, wait a minute. The VU meters aren't showing. So that's always good. Let's.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, it is selected. I hear it coming back inside through Studio
Do
Monitor.
VU meter scale. See if that'll.
Huh. It's
give
not
to you.
popping up
That's
anymore.
a very strange thing.
I'm going
that's
to try
not showing.
closing it, open it up again. Oh, here it is.
Boom.
There we go. Awesome. So now that's listening to my audio input, as we can see that it's right there. If I flip it over to a different input, so I used API control to flip this over to another device or another stream. So now this is listening to my Central 2.0 stream.
Boom. Awesome. That's great, man. So what you're saying is you don't have to run a 3.5 millimeter auxiliary cable to your PTZ camera that's 20 feet up in the ceiling.
Exactly. I've had to do that a couple times for some line outs just to have some backup streams, but it's just, if it's on the network, just have Central pull it and merge those streams together. Yeah.
Well, and Dante is already being so widely used that it would be great to have an option to like just merge them there in the NDI stream, just retransmit them and off they go.
Exactly.
This would be super handy for a multi-language versioning. There you go.
Very cool. Yeah.
Great idea.
If you have your different audios, streams on different NDI channels and being able to throw that together. Absolutely.
Here's a question I don't know the answer to. Will the premium version support any NDI decoder or just the BirdDog decoder still?
Just BirdDog decoders, because essentially what we're doing with Central is pushing our own API commands from Central to the API of the BirdDog device. So we can't program every single NDI decoder and update to every single other manufacturer's, firmwares and all that stuff. So
no, and that's a great point to kind of point out here. Okay, so the NDI SDK, where like people are like we get the SDK from NDI and we interpret what it is that they mean and how to implement it. All right. But we're doing that, and then every other NDI manufacturer is also doing that, and it's up to interpretation. And so then how we write our API commands and all that stuff, that's unique to BirdDog products. It's not a unified thing. Yep. The SDK is actually quite it's very well thought out, to where there is a lot of like unilateral movement across the ability to actually implement it into a product. But that leaves it up to a lot of interpretation, which means everybody's code is going to be different, which is one of those problems when you say something like your keyboard can control every camera, because people just see NDI on the box, but they don't realize that like PTZ Optics, BirdDog, NewTek, they're all doing their own version of the NDI command line, the metadata. And so it gets a little tricky. Same thing here is we're specifically writing for BirdDog decoders. And again, this goes back to like a week and a half ago, maybe it was 2 weeks now. I said something along the lines of BirdDog is making a strong effort to create an end-to-end solution that allows you to use your encoding sources, your cameras and everything, control them in the middle, and then output them to BirdDog decoders, and basically creating an entire ecosystem so that it all works together. I mean, if you want to put multiple manufacturers together, that's fine. There are API commands for a lot of those products out there that, you can
tie in,
figure out how to get them all to work together. But to really get things to sing, the goal is to have an ecosystem that works really well together. And so this Central is like one of those major pieces that we're really excited about, because now it unlocks the ability to do the API commands from a button, and it allows you to, it's really fast, and it's decentralized in many respects, because it's a service that's running, but you can access it on the network. And
it's an instantaneous video switching router.
Yeah.
That's API controllable. I mean, it's incredible. Just even for like today's show, I don't need to run into, vMix or TriCaster or anything like that just to, get everything going.
Yep.
It'll be even easier with Pod soon too. So
yeah, and it's again, these are all things that like as you start seeing the pieces kind of like get put into place, things will become a lot clearer. What if you had multiple campuses across town and you need a copy? Do you still need a copy of Central at each of them, right? Question about how you set up that network.
Yep.
If you are dark fiber or if you are crossing over a VPN, potentially you may be able to handle things like if your NDI network is a flat network across multiple campuses, that's one installation. If you've got multiple NDI, if you've got multiple campuses with individual networks on there, then in theory, yes, you would need one license per campus. Web access will make this a whole lot easier to run on any machine on the network. And that is exactly the complaint that we heard and exactly what the goal of this version of Central is trying to address. So,
and just to take that a step further before we jump into the Dante question. There's 3 versions of Central. We have that light version, which was the first one that I showed you guys. That has a preview stream of the NDI source that's selected. However, you do not gain the ability to have groups on the left or the right. It's just for connecting source to destination. You also have a retransmitter, which I'm going to show you guys very soon. In the Pro version of Central, you have everything that we've been looking at today and a couple more things, as well as having 4 router sources that you can generate. So I have 2 currently, so I can add 2 more. But talking about web access control, with Enterprise, we have SSO integration. So being able to have permissions and user logins so that not anybody on the network can just jump into Central.
Right.
That's where we, have that next level of control.
Yeah, you could definitely control it a little bit, and that's another one of those things that like even government agencies and stuff they require you to have that sort of thing now for security reasons, even before they're going to even like take a sniff at your software. So that's partially what all that's about. Oh shoot, there was something on here that I wanted to ask, and now I need to give a little shout out here. Michael Graves, he said something to me. He just mentioned it in the comments, and we kind of glazed past it. But he said, well, the external output of vMix is a webcam option, so you don't need that. And so Jake went into thing, and I restarted vMix and did a bunch of stuff, which is one of the reasons why my response was delayed slightly there for the first time.
No worries.
And now I killed the NDI output on vMix. I turned the external on.
Yep.
And then
you switch the input on
the input on StreamYard, and now my CPU is 55%.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. So I killed like Studio Monitor, I killed NDI webcam, I killed NDI router, I killed the output, the NDI output on vMix, and now the CPU is like it doesn't break 60.
Cool.
So, anyways, just a little side hack for those of you who have been along for the ride the entire time. And now I did re-add the 400 to vMix, and she started dropping. Well, she started dropping frames, and so I was like, okay, that's a NIC card problem. So I have 2 NIC ports on this machine, which I might be able to unify. I'll have to look into doing that later, which would give me then 2 gigs.
Yep.
And then the other option is getting like a fiber cage and going directly fiber from this computer out like USB-C, which would be able to handle like 5 gigs. And maybe seeing if I can find something that's SFP plus. So USB-C to SFP. At least, actually, the SFP may be faster than copper anyways. So there you go. Michael Graves, cheers, man. I owe you a toxic waste sour candy because you saved my CPU here, and I'm very interested to watch that performance while we continue on this conversation. Okay, this Dante question we should dive into slightly here. Do you have to install Dante virtual sound card to get Dante NDI bridge to work, or is it just built in? I ask because our Windows server is virtualized, and Audinate only sells a 10 times higher price DVS for virtual machines.
Ooh, that's really interesting. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
It does not necessarily need Dante virtual sound card. Actually, it doesn't need it at all. now that I think about it. So essentially, let's just pop on over. Dante controller, right? So Dante NDI bridge pops up as a source inside controller. So as a receive source and as a transmitter source. So I'm also using my RedNet to send it to my AVIO USB. I was using Dante virtual sound card for a little bit. So I was using that just for my regular, just getting my Dantes onto my computer. But I did get one of those AVIOs. So that way I don't have to use my NIC card for ingesting that Dante anymore. I can just do that on that USB device. But in any case, as you can see, I don't have Dante virtual sound card running over here. I'm still able to select multiple Dante sources going into Dante Bridge. So on this first column, that's my RedNet microphones. So that's going into inputs 1 and 2. 3 and 4, I have it plugged into inputs 2. And then I also have a Neutrik D Pro microphone input Dante device. So I'm sending those also to inputs 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. I actually have one of my guitars plugged into that. So I'm able to flip Dante audio, guitar streams into NDI and then be able to like quickly, jam with Studio Monitor open without having to open up Pro Tools or anything like that. Super easy. So
that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Nice.
Right. So that's on that 5 and 6 channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't need DVS to use Dante Bridge.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting indeed, actually. Okay. So we can send any retransmitter stream to any decoder. Am I correct in assuming that?
Correct. So all of those sources, like the source that I have up here, my AV matrix, right? That is an NDI source on my network. It will show up on my left-hand side over here. So I should have that AV matrix. And if I wanted to click this and send it to my meeting room sources, I just go over and click connect. And now that's transmitting over to that source.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ian Foster, we don't know who this guy is. So you can flip HX into full NDI using bridge in local mode, and then HX sources would be distributable through central at a much lower bit rate, as HX is the original bit rate.
You can do that. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
That's actually awesome.
This makes such a huge use case for
a centralized computer. Sorry, not what?
A centralized computer and for flex out and for play.
Yep.
Like this is going to be, it's going to be ridiculous because now you can convert all this stuff. Yeah.
And then this is another thing that I kind of want to jump into. As the sources grow, right? As we start adding in a bunch of NDI decoders, which is the plan with all the plays, that everyone's dying to get. Inside Central, you have NDI network settings. So I'm running Central in multicast.
Nice.
So all of my NDI sources and all of my NDI decoders are on multicast. So that way I just have my network switch handle the duplication and subscription streams to all of my decoders. So instead of, if you're sending a central source, right, you'll need to set this to multicast.
Right.
If you wanted that retransmitter or that virtual router or the generator, which we didn't even get into yet, to transmit to multiple locations. If you didn't have that set and you had it set on TCP, UDP, or RUDP, that's going to pull another connection each time to each subscription decoder.
Right.
So that would potentially flood your network more than a multicast, or not necessarily flood the network, but flood the NIC card of the unit. So whether that be like a P100, that can only handle so many streams, right? So If it's on multicast, then you can just have the switch handle.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, dozens of flex outs and play type of networks are going to obviously be running a multicast from the ground up, just because TCP will eventually just flood everything.
Yep.
But yeah, that would be great.
But in the interim, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Flip that stuff into HX, and then once we put Silicon 2 on the decoders, we're going to be able to decode HX sources.
Right.
So that way you can tie in any NDI manufacturer that's been using HX to our decoders through Central.
Wow. So with Central, I love BirdDog even more.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Good to hear.
Me too.
NetHab says, yeah, I'm all VPN together, but Comcast only gives us 25 megs upload because of a monopoly. That would be interesting. So Central should technically then still work. If you're already doing this over a VPN, then Central is just the trafficker of information. It's not really the thing, like it's not shipping packets necessarily. It's making the connections between IP addresses. Right. And so if you have a flat network that's all VPN together over multiple campuses, then yeah,
should be good.
Mean, in theory, if it's already working, you should be good. So Michael says, hey, those dual NIC cards work well. The question is, if I plug it in mid-show, is it going to crash all my sources? But probably not, because they'd be the same IP address, but it would be... anyways, I don't necessarily want to do that live on camera, but it'd be great to check. Now, then GoWeb, who was studiously watching my frame rates, noticed that I started dropping frames again after I said such highly things about switching up my... And it's true, vMix shot up to like a 70% CPU usage for about a minute and a half, and now it's back down to around 50. So I don't know what is going on, but it definitely started chewing up some bandwidth. So Dante NDI Bridge acts as DVS and passes audio even on a virtual machine. I'd be happy to test that for you if you haven't already.
It theoretically should, as long as that virtual, or as long as the network has Dante sources on it, it should be able to see all that stuff. Yeah, you select, actually inside Dante Bridge, you select the NIC card of the... that's there. So I think your virtual NIC card should show up, and as long as that has access to the NDI or the Dante streams, you should be good to go.
Nice. What is going on, Jeremy? Welcome back, man. It's good to see you again. Thanks for jumping on the show. Dual NIC cards are going to have two different IP addresses. Well, yeah, but if they belong to the same network, then I'm thinking about load balancing. We'll see what we can do about that. But anyways, that's for an experiment, not happening live on this show. A couple of final questions. What kind of load do we need to consider for the computer running Central as more routers, generators, retransmitters are being made? How much beef do you need to plan for on that specific computer?
Barely anything. So this can run on some little nooks. It can, run on laptops. It can do gaming computers, production computers. It's a super completely light load application because we're just sending control data packets back to the decoders or the sources, and actually this might be a really good segue into generator, because what we do with generator is really exciting. So we take your pre-existing MP4 files, we flip that and convert that into Speed HQ. Let me see if I can pull up that screen, but anyway, we flip that into NDI Speed HQ. We throw that into a videos folder inside the Central installation location, and your sources show up inside Central to be able to stream playback on demand. So it's not using any GPU or CPU encoding when or after it's converted into NDI. It's just using the network data packets outside of Central. So let's jump in over there. So if I jump into my generator from the three dots, right, I have a plus sign where I can create a new generator source, right? So let's just call this test gen, just for example, right? So now that exists on my left-hand side, on my right, I have all of these video files that I can add into this now playlist. If I jump over to my stock footage, I have all of those videos tied in over here. I could remove them with the minus, or I could add more to this one. I have a camera playlist as well. So there's a video going of our PF120 and the new P110s and P120s. So over here, if I click this drop-down arrow, we can see the two files that are currently selected inside this playlist. It gives us the format, so 1080 streams at 25 frames per second. It also gives us the duration as well. From here, we have a looped playback. So once we get to the final video, it'll kick back over to the top. So we have a continuous loop going. We can stop and start the stream. So when we stop it and start it back up again, it'll go back to the top of the playlist. If you want to just pause it and then continue on later, we do also have a pause and a resume button. Lastly, there's also a skip, so we can skip to the next playlist in line. But let's check it out. So if I pull up Studio Monitor again, we'll jump over to my, so the generator sources, or everything from Central, is prefixed by the module that it comes in. So this is a generator source. So we have BirdDogJake and then the name of it, which is cameras, right? So now I have my P110 and 120 video currently in here. On my Stream Deck, actually, let me pull that up on another window. Let's see. Here we go. We'll pull up my PF120. So if I wanted to skip ahead to the next video, we're now using API commands to control the playlist inside Central. So if I want to go ahead and pause that, right? Or if I want to go ahead and resume, we have that streaming. And additionally, like I said, if we stop it and then play up again, it'll start from the top of the video rather than pausing and continuing, right? So this is fantastic, just to be able to have these playlists available. So I could also jump into a couple of our converters, right? Here's the core, which I'm super excited about. This is one of my favorite things that we have coming out too.
Yeah, we're all like holding our breath.
I know. I was using it at IBC this year, and it was too incredible. We also, it doesn't have it here, we added a V-mount battery plate on the back of that unit.
Nice.
Yeah. Which I'm really, really excited for. Just from being in, a couple of, handheld productions, instead of having, you could potentially have a completely wireless NDI rig with Central soon. I mean, with Core rather.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be, again, ecosystem things. I mean, just go to the website and see the things that we've announced, and you'll kind of get an idea as to the direction that things are going. But
seriously,
it's an exciting time to have BirdDog stuff, because there's some more cool stuff that's coming out that's going to make it even better.
It is. Yeah. Hey, do we have time for one more really cool thing?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So this is hands down my favorite. So I have a BirdDog keyboard over here, right? So I currently have this keyboard. I don't know if you can see that over here, but it's subscribed to a Central 2.0 stream.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that mean? Inside our keyboard, I did an NDI search. This Central router source, labeled PTZ router, shows up inside my my keyboard. I add that to camera 9, and now I have NDI control over my virtual router source that's generated by Central. So what does this do? Without having to call multiple cameras, I can use a Stream Deck to change the virtual router subscription, while the keyboard is still holding on to that virtual source. So as of right now, let's see. I have zoom control, right, on my PF120 because that's selected on my left window. My right window, I'm going to keep this at the PF120 just so you can see what's happening. I'll pop on over to my P200, and now I have control over that P200 instantaneously. So instead of having to call cameras through the keyboard, you can call cameras through API. So over here, if I was doing a two-hand production, I can come over here. I have zoom control. If I need to jump back into the the 200, I have instantaneous. Or if I need to go to my 100 and zoom out or punch back in, we have that available. And just being able to quickly and easily jump and have instantaneous switching and then instantaneous control over our cameras is,
yeah, that's stinking awesome.
It's amazing just being able to, and that camera looks fantastic. So that's our P200 if anyone was curious about what it looks like in lowish light. And then the bokeh too, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, the distance isn't too far between those things. And then that's a little fun BirdDog, a BirdDog Lego.
BirdDog Lego.
That yet.
You got to be you got to be in the exclusive club to have one of those.
That's right. You really do. No, but seriously, like this is absolutely, you know, incredible. Just to be able to have those left hand switching.
Yeah.
And then something that I didn't even do yet that I wanted to add into this is, so I'm using a Stream Deck to do those API calls. However, the 6 function buttons on our keyboard also push out API commands. So instead of using your Stream Deck to do your virtual routing switching, you can have your 6 cameras loaded onto F1 through 6.
Yeah.
And then have that be your switcher.
Yeah, you're not limited to having to have a Stream Deck as well. You can just do it right on the keyboard.
You can do it right on the keyboard. Exactly.
There's options there. Yeah.
It's I mean, that alone is just a reason to have central in a live production or you know, a meeting space.
Yeah.
Just to be able to have that control.
GoWeb says, what settings do you recommend for a BirdDog P120 if I need to send feeds to multiple decoders, multicast or TCP, or you just need to set it on central only? So this is more of a, how many are we talking? Because every time in TCP, every time you subscribe an NDI source to a destination, it's going to generate 140 megs if you're running HD. So multicast is going to just send 140 per source, not per destination, and then it'll the switch is responsible basically for figuring out the path and duplicating the packets at the source or at the destination. So multicast is the way to do it. If you're like, let's say you have a main feed in an auditorium, you want to send this to screens that are in the hallways, you know, so that people that are not in the main room can see what's happening inside the auditorium. This ideally, if you've got, you know, half a dozen or a dozen, you probably want to think about a multicast environment, probably looking at a more robust network than just something that's, you know, that you purchased locally. So you're probably looking at finding a 4250 or a Cisco 350 or something like that can handle multicast properly, and then setting it up according to Nutex instructions. Now, if you ask for Nutex multicast instructions, they say don't do it. So that's why I like Netgear, because the 4250 has it built in the profile, which is what you're running over there, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm running 2 M4250s. They're both doing multicast. Dante's in multicast. The NDI's in multicast. I mean, it's really great for, you know, my workflows and my demos and stuff like that, because I need to be able to pull multiple sources into Cam Control, into Adobe Premiere, into all these devices. So there's no reason for the CPU of our converters and cameras to be dealing with that when we have, you know, devices like network switches that are specifically meant for that.
Correct.
And then just one more addition onto that is if you want to keep your camera in TCP, but send it to a virtual router source inside Central, then you can have Central be your multicast generator. So if that makes sense, right? So you don't have the camera in multicast, but you have central in, you'd be able to kind of flip those and push those out.
Yeah, and then the central sources are the ones that you want to connect to the destinations, which would
rather
be
than the camera itself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Camera would be functioning in TCP, which you get 2 different protocols on the same wire, and it's anyways, it's possible. It can be done.
Yeah.
Can you run central on a Raspberry Pi?
I haven't tried it.
I haven't tried it. Do we have a Linux installer? I think it's just XE
don't
right
think
now.
so.
Right?
It's just Windows for right now.
So yeah, Jeremy, it does require Windows in its current state. Not to say that other options may not show up in the future. I don't know. I'm not saying like I know some sort of information, but we're always looking at things, especially because we get a lot of people that ask for this stuff on Mac, and that is a question we get quite often. So is Dante Bridge a part of the Together program, or should it be? It is not a part of the Together program, and no, it should not be, because the Dante Bridge software, we are required to purchase a license from Audinate every time we issue that software, and so it costs us money to send you a license on that one, whereas it's not an in-house build. We have to use the Audinate licensing, and so it is not a free software, and it's not a part of the Together program. So what happens if the laptop crashes after doing all of this routing in central? Will it start again from where it left off?
Yeah, so essentially your routers, your generator sources, and your retransmitters, all the sources generated by central, we actually have an export and an import file. So if you want to export your configuration to have that as a backup, which I completely recommend. So, that gets downloaded as a central config, and then the date.
Can you launch it from that file, or do you have to import it?
No, you have to import it. So what you'll do is you'll come over to the import and select the file
Choose
that you
the
need
file.
to import.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I didn't know it. Like vMix, they have
Super
vMix.
useful.
You can export your configuration, but then you click on the vMix file, and it fires up vMix in that configuration. So it might be something that we throw up on the thoughts board. For a future iteration.
Totally.
Sorry, I'm dropping something here on my desk. I'm looking at the Core 5 now. Hey, what's going on, Phil?
Oh, nice, man.
Does Core have built-in Wi-Fi?
No.
Is this a joke, or?
It does not have built-in Wi-Fi.
Because your NDI network is not running on a Wi-Fi network.
Yes. However, let's talk soon once that unit comes out.
Yeah.
There's some exciting things with that USB-C port on that.
That's true. That's very true. So I want to have a BirdDog keyboard, but I spent all my budget on cameras and decoders, so I have to wait for some time. Until then, a Stream Deck. I'm using the Stream Deck as controller. That is really common.
Yep.
There are probably thousands of users that are doing just that, and I know of some personally. So, Jeremy, thanks for geniuses. We appreciate it, but we're actually not the ones that wrote the software, so we will pass along the sentiment. Absolutely.
We just know how to use it well.
Yeah, right. Hey, I have a 4250. Well, there you go. Well, then on the latest firmware for 4250, you're already set up for multicast. So
totally. Yeah, it's in the NDI 5 profile, ready to go. And then if you're not familiar with this, might as well show you guys this now.
Here we go.
Inside Access Manager, in our advanced tabs, we have a multicast dropdown, and it's literally a single checkbox. So that's all you have to do. Click that, and now Access Manager is running in multicast.
And that tells the NDI libraries, what Access Manager does, tells the NDI libraries locally on this machine to expect multicast packets in the NDI network. So
exactly.
Once you enable that, then the NDI libraries will start looking for multicast NDI packets. And then when you light that up on Central, we are all talking the same language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then just as an FYI, for those who don't know, this is where you set up your NDI discovery servers, which I currently use and absolutely recommend for every NDI installation, just to be able to point your NDI sources to a specific location rather than relying on the NDI device to use MDNS to search for all of the sources.
Right.
It just makes a lot of sense for everybody to jump over to Discovery server, and it's just here waiting, running, listening.
If you need help with DS, we have an install video too that's up on the support. Well, it's up on this
Yes, we
BirdDog
do.
page, but it's also in our knowledge database. If you need help with DS, we could definitely walk you through some of that. It is, I say this all the time, I actually truly believe that Discovery Server was intended to be used in every NDI installation, but they
Completely
didn't talk about it when it first came out. And so everybody just started firing up and relying on the MDNS to handle all of the, to populate the network with the NDI information. But Discovery Server like simplifies things, quiets down the network, like it does a lot of stuff. And so DS, if you're serious about getting great results out of your NDI network, I strongly suggest you look into DS.
Definitely use that. And then this is also where you have your preferred NIC card. So if you have multiple NIC cards on your device, so I'm using Ethernet 1 for my Dante right now, and I want to make sure that my Ethernet 2 specifically for my NDI devices, we have that here as well.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, fun stuff there, right?
So Michael says, well, the Intel Core i5 series processor and above is recommended. I'm assuming you're talking about vMix. I'm running an i7, but no guarantees as to what caliber of an i7 I'm running. However, I will also then continue this conversation because Michael's been giving me pointers on vMix all day. I did light up a second NIC card, and now I have a fourth camera, and I'm not dropping frames. So confirmed it was a bandwidth issue on the computer that was causing the issue. And I have a third network port. You better believe I'm going to be lighting up shortly after the show. So
awesome. Yeah,
just keep piling them on
how
there.
that goes. Because I mean that's the beauty about NDI is that was the whole point, is that you can plug in 2 of those and it's like an auto lag kind of load balancing thing that's built in, which is great. But I don't believe that would work if you have the preferred NIC card. So so something to keep in mind.
Are you saving all of those candies for later? No. So I'm gonna have a blue one next.
Blue one? All right.
Finish up here and see how this, because didn't Ian say blue is the best? So
Ian did say blue is the best. So
all right,
let's do it.
Blue it is. There's round 2. Let's see how sour this thing gets. In regards to the core, Jake had said that it's completely wireless.
We'll talk soon about that, bud. Send me an email.
There you go.
We'll get some really cool videos out with that too. It was just really exciting for me to see the V-mount battery backing at IBC this year.
Yeah.
Just to be able to have that. I mean, realistically, in my recommended workflows, we're going to be going right into the EtherCon connection on those cores.
Yep.
But we'll talk about some cloud workflows with that potential USB-C soon.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So non-NDI question: radial pedals or whirlwinds? This is for you.
Ooh, so pedals over there, those are all my Boss pedals, right? I'm a huge Roland Boss fan. Radial is cool, but I do use Countryman DIs for my bass and acoustic inputs into DI box. I was using a bunch of like electro harmonics, but like the big muffs and things like that, but I got rid of those. And I don't know. I have 2 full Boss boards.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're exciting.
That's cool.
I mean,
stuff.
I mean, they're built like tanks. Like you could step on them with boots or whatever, and like kick them around.
They're for stomp boxes, right? So it's pretty much the point. Awesome. Yeah, I saw your collection back there. So my next purchase will involve a play and a core for sure. Question is, the Core 7 has the EtherCon jack, right? Which I believe is true. And
yes,
the Core 5 is just the regular RJ45.
Yep.
Yeah, so those plays that you have one of those there, do I?
I do. I was gonna hook it up and show you guys, but I think we're gonna save that for a different video.
You're gonna have Jake back again, Yeah. I actually somehow made it to the end of the comments, and so what haven't we talked about with Central that we should finish up? Is there anything else on there that we should cover?
So let's figure it out. So we have our sources on our left-hand side, right? We have our what's it called? We have our virtual router in the middle, right? So this is where we can add all of our sources, right? And the specific groups. We have our generator module for that playback on demand, right? So NDI digital signage, or I mean, even if you wanted to use these, John, inside your vMix production, like instead of having the video sources, right, your MP4s or whatever, play and get encoded or decoded rather in vMix, you could just have them as NDI sources already ready to go. And then that retransmitter module, obviously having a new Dante NDI AV matrix module is completely advantageous in numerous workflows, right?
Yeah.
You know, live production, for corporate meeting spaces, really anything that you want to merge a couple of sources. And then on the right-hand side, that's where we have all our destinations again. So if we wanted to set multiple or the same source to multiple decoders, or if we wanted to hit them individually, we can just select and push that source over. It's just as simple as coming to the device and then pushing it over to the decoder. I mean, one little thing that we didn't talk about is that the gear icon, which you guys are familiar with, will take us to the web user interface of the camera or of the converter, right?
Yeah.
So
it's in an effort to simplify getting around.
Exactly. I mean, this is super useful because, like, just being able to jump in is fantastic.
Yep.
And then for all of our cameras and devices, you'll get a little BirdDog icon over there, which is fun. Everyone else just says NDI. So then we talked about Lite and Pro, and how Enterprise will have the SSO integration. We can import and export configuration files. We can jump into using NDI network settings with multicast and RUDP, as well as set discovery servers inside here. And actually, back to your question before about that whole off subnet devices. I mean, as long as you have those static routes confirmed working, and you've done that before through Access Manager, we have that remote IP address list here. So I wouldn't be surprised that you'd be able to get that going really easily across subnets.
Yeah, that's always one of those pieces where, like, I don't normally run multiple subnet NDI networks, and so it's
neither do I.
Testing that is not always the easiest, but we probably should.
Yeah, we definitely should.
Perhaps in the next office we'll run. Actually, you know what I should do is I should run a separate subnet in here, because right now I'm just NDI group everything.
Okay.
And so I have all my studio cameras are on their own group, and they're with this machine, and then my test machine that's in my office. Mm-hmm. So I'm a part of that same group, and that's just the way that we do this. But it would be great to have multiple subnets and actually run it that way, because then genuinely you could run multiple subnets on multiple VLANs and isolate it that way, which is probably the network preferred way to do it. But hey, Jeremy, it's always good to see you, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. And you too, Michael. Appreciate you helping me out with some vMix stuff today. I really appreciate that. There's that 400 camera that's up there in the the crow's nest. So it is officially on. It's a little more one of those dirty shots that just kind of shows everything. So GoWeb had one more. He said, clarification on when that laptop crashes with Central running on it. What will happen to the retransmitted sources? Now, out of the gates, I think I know some of this.
Yep.
You on the decoders, you really should set a fallback source, which would then default back to something that is a safe source to transmit to. But
always recommend NDI failover sources.
Yeah, NDI failover source, utilize that feature. But what happens when it crashes, you would reload. From what I'm understanding is that you would import your configuration. So you get it all how you want it set up. You'd export your configuration.
Just to have as a backup.
As a backup plan. And then when you fire it back up, worst case scenario is none of the configurations are running again. And you would import that configuration and you'd be restored back to your previous setup. But ideally, you would turn Central on and it would begin to retransmit again. So that's one of those hardening cases that we'd probably have to test.
So like I shut down my computer every night and then I boot that back up, at least this production computer.
Yeah.
This morning, I did not recreate my retransmitter or my playlists or my router sources or anything like that. it had all of my groups also saved and ready to go. In the back end of Central, I believe it's maybe every 30 seconds to a minute or so, we save the configuration to itself inside the folder. So that way it can boot up and have everything saved. But again, I always like exporting configurations.
Right.
Super helpful.
Right. GoWeb also says, so what's the max Cat 6E cable length that we can run with a BirdDog camera? We adhere to the IEEE standards, and so that would be 100 meters or 328 feet, but the shorter the better. And so don't do things in excess. We do have don't do what you don't push it any further than you have to, but we have a 100-foot cable here in the office just strictly for testing. Matter of fact, it's the one that I plugged in quickly to get my second NIC card lit up.
Right.
But it's a 100-footer, and we run tests on 100 feet all the time just to make sure it's a pretty long distance. Like 100 feet
is a long time. And I've had to use 2 single 100s coupled together. And those work fine with the P200s and 100s.
Yeah, with really long, lengthy cables, I mean, unless you do this for a living, I would strongly suggest prefab stuff because those have gone through, you'd hope, a QA process. So a 100-foot cable that has molded ends has been tested before they put it in the bag because they don't want to get that back because the margin for sale on those products are so thin, like razor thin, that when you see a 100-foot cable for $15 and another one for $17, those dudes are making maybe $1 or $2 on those cables. So that's how that works. So we adhere to the standards. So 100 meters, which is 328 feet, or the shorter the better though. So 100 feet, I can attest that we test our products on those all the time, and that is a very regular thing. So 100 feet is a very long way. If you are going further than that, you're probably seriously thinking about running a fiber cable between 2 switches, to be honest with you. Just performance level, just even network data in general. But for high performance video, if you're going to go further than 100 feet, it becomes very economical to use fiber and multi-mode fiber, the plastic stuff. The cable is probably the same price. The thing that's going to be annoying is the LC ends, the SFP plus LC ends. But the performance you get out of 100 feet of copper or 100 feet of fiber is unmatched. So you may want to really seriously consider fiber options at that point, especially if you're talking about using multiple sources over that length. Like if you're connecting 2 switches together with 100 feet of copper, I would, again, strongly recommend the fiber option. And the fiber cable is so cheap that you can run 2 of them and just not light one up. And if something happens to it, you just switch over to the other. So there's some options there as to how you can do that. But in terms of reliability and being robust and running quickly, you better believe that at the next office, BirdDog office, which will be probably January of 2024.
Nice.
We'll be doing fiber between any switch that's installed in the office and some sort of fiber core. So
cool. That should be an exciting workflow.
Yeah, well, I proved it at NAB that is the way to do it because we had great performance on very beta NDI5 software, and
that was a great booth, man. I mean, we had all those 5 pods set up, and I mean, that's what I really liked about IBC2 is that we really get to show off a big, NDI BirdDog ecosystem workflow.
Well, it's funny because I talked to the ELT about it, and they were like, "Don't you feel like it was a little overkill?" And I was like, "That was the point, though. The point was to show a proper NDI network as to here's how you do it. Here's how you really do this." And I had dozens of conversations of guys that came over and they said, "We're about to light up our studio in Florida or whatever. How do we do the NDI network?" And I was like this.
Just look around, right?
Yeah, do it this way.
Those are different floors. Those are different meeting rooms. Those are different pods. Those are different.
And we had
so much sense.
I think we had a dozen VLANs at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because we were hosting Zoom at our booth as well, and they had an isolated network and they had isolated internet. Right. So they needed a router interface and a bunch of things. But we had it humming over there, and I was really happy with the way that it ended up being. and the fiber, it was all fiber. It was fiber
Mhm.
between all the desks. We at least had 10 gigs, but most of them had 20.
Right.
And so there was no hindrance between sources to destinations at all. I could route anything anywhere. And now,
And Central had access to, you know, all
Yep.
those sources as well, and being able to send that around.
yep,
Um,
I really should have. I mean, this time around, if we do it again, if they bring me back, this time around,
Oh, you're definitely coming back to NAB, John.
we'll see, because who knows? Maybe they think I'm cursed because I got COVID that one time. No, if we do it again, I'll leverage NDI groups this time.
Yep.
And we'll just group the products on the desk together, and then
add the specific groups into the, you know, the computer that's running it. So
if Central
would have
needs, like,
access to
we're going to
all
show
those NDI
Central,
groups.
so yeah, we can add all those sources into Access Manager.
Yep.
And yeah, it'll be, and we'll do it all without, like, VLANs are kind of like boxes. They're like, they have like hard walls. You
Yep.
can't get through them. Groups, all you got to do is add the group.
Right.
And then you can get through. And so it's like the soft way to do it. But yeah, there's definitely some options there when it comes to, you know, how to make all of the network work together, but stay in their own zone, so that, like, when a professor walks into a classroom, he can't navigate to other rooms. Right. Yeah. So I'm going to spend a couple of days now on Central. Thanks for clarifying all of our doubts. I hope that I will have tons more for you for the next live show. Absolutely. Come back every show. Bring Sanaya as well. She's always a blast to have around here. So
GoWeb, before you hop off, because you said that you're using a Stream Deck, you know, do we have like 2 minutes so I can show you what looks like in my bit focus, just to kind of see what's going
just
on?
throw it up there, and if not, he can watch it afterwards.
Watch the video after.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you're familiar with Stream Deck and Companion, so here are all my buttons that I have selected for Central. So if I go back over to my connections, I'm using the generic HTTP inside BitFocus. And then I'm currently, let's say if I go over to my edit, I'm hitting my base URL and the specific port 8080 for Central 2.0. We have that OK connection. And then now I have all of my buttons over here. So for my video router, which I'm currently using for streaming into StreamYard, if I look over here, we'll add a new a get command, right? And then from here, so I don't have a publicly facing API documentation just yet for all of you guys. We're going to push that on our website very, very soon. However, if you guys do want to have a couple of commands that I've been currently using, or I can send you an Excel document that's maybe not as pretty as what it's going to be once we, you know, publicly push that out, but just to test it out on the beta, if you guys want, send an email over to hello@birddog.tv. But over here, we're sending a command for the router to do a source connect switch from my P100 and the format name, which is CAM, which is what shows up inside Studio Monitor, and then pushing it over to the video router source. So if I go over here and do test connection, I'm back on stream. And if I go back over to my screen capture, I'm back on screen capture. So on that screen capture source command, I'm sending the router a source connection from my BirdDogJake, which is what shows up as my NDI source, right? So if I go over BirdDogJake and then my NVIDIA graphics card, right? So that's labeled here, my GeForce RTX 2070, and then the name of the video router. So this is how we, you know, switch sources through BitFocus. So we don't have a specific module, but, you know, all you have to do is go over to another button and do a get command, put in the API key, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, which is basically our API stuff that we've had for ages anyways, right? So now it's
It's
just
it's very similar to all the other stuff that we have.
Yeah.
It's just not publicly facing yet. I've been using it for testing and for adding it into my programs and for my demos and whatnot. So I have a couple of commands that are super useful, like play, stop, skip of all the playlists. And then you could also virtually, or you can API switch not only the router, but the retransmitter. And inside the retransmitter, you can do both options. You have a video connect API command or an audio connect API command. So if you want to keep your main video source, but just switch the audio, send that through. Or vice versa, you want to keep that main program audio, but switch the video that's connected to it. You can do that as well.
Oh my goodness.
I know. It's amazing. I mean, it really turns my Stream Deck in front of me into an AV matrix switcher.
Yeah. It's now I have valid reason to buy that giant Stream Deck that you have.
Yes. Oh, totally.
I
ran out of buttons, John. Like I wish they made a bigger one.
I have a down arrow, which is basically a folder, and then it's like next page. So I just keep doing that. Actually, I realized during the show here that every time I would hit the mute, I'd hit the mute button on the thing, it would trigger a preset 2 on the studio on the 200, and it's because Companion is running in the background, and it's also it was programmed for the same button. So
that's too funny.
I was like, whoops a daisy, I had to get rid of those. I don't need to trigger the commands anymore because I got 4 cameras on my on my person, so don't have to move it around.
I got to add some more cameras. I mean, I have my top
there you go.
on this, things like that, but I like the your new setup.
Yeah, it just kept expanding. Like I had this one and I had that one, and then I got a second one, which was the P110, and then the 400 was sitting here on the desk, but I wasn't using it because it was throwing some errors or whatever. Well, we got it kind of functional, and now
the next thing that we got to get you, John, for the new studio is a motorized slider. All right.
Ooh, so there you go.
Put that on a tripod, right?
Yeah.
So this is a fun little trick that I like to do. You have that on a motorized slider in front of you.
Yeah.
Turn on auto tracking on cam control. Depending on your background distance from the foreground and where the subject is, you can have that pacing back and forth. Having auto tracks still keep you center framed, right? So that way the background is moving and it has a parallax effect. So
that's cool. That's a great idea.
I'm trying to get my buddy to send me his motorized slider so I can test it out again.
Geez, yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's a fun. I mean, if you're building like a small like podcast studio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to have something on a shelf up in the air, just moving back and forth, but still keeping that center frame.
Yeah.
It's cool.
The next studio will have a seat for somebody to actually come in and like be on the show with me. Cool. Just kind of like how I had it at NAB. But I didn't like the off to the side camera. So I didn't like that as like the primary thing because we were talking to each other. It was fine, but it just like, first of all, it was overkill. We didn't have the coloration right. I couldn't control a lot of the color because the floor light, whatever
was changing and all that stuff.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff that I wanted to like change about it. But if I had a controlled environment like this, where we can have a desk and have people actually sit at it, and if somebody's visiting, like if Miley or Jamie or somebody comes to town from Australia, can actually sit down and talk to them and like have a conversation and share that on the show. And so that's the next piece whenever I don't know, actually. So in related news, one of the things that the repair guys were doing was they moved the shelving units away from, like they were kind of like crowding in here. And if you remember the days where Dexter was with us, he would sit in a crate between these two giant shelves. And so, they moved one of the shelves, and now there's like all this extra room in here. So there's a very good chance that things are going to change in here again, and maybe I can light up an interview booth. But
cool.
We'll have to see what it's going. And of course, right here, we're almost like 2 hours into it here, Petra. But hey, how's
Petra.
It going?
It was great chatting with you at IBC. That was awesome.
I was gonna. She just put on here. I was over at IBC. I saw Central. I was blown away. We're all pretty excited about it. I'll definitely admit that for sure.
Yep.
Let's see here. Jake would love to have you on John Barker here to record Discord where we have pros like Petra, John, Aaron.
Oh, great.
Photo Joseph list. It's a long list. I mean,
oh, Photo Joseph, right on.
Yeah, any
Cool.
day. That'd be awesome. So leave it up to Jake to get you all excited. Even though I still love vMix, it might not always be needed anymore. Ooh. Here's the shocking news, which you may not have caught, Petra, was that I'm actually running vMix on this machine, which is, I know we never thought that day would come.
No, we really didn't.
But here it is. And now we're troubleshooting vMix. Michael Graves is helping me troubleshoot vMix live on the show while we were demoing Central. So yeah, we had a lot going on today.
Exciting.
I'll email you a link for the Discord.
Do it.
Yeah.
And then we also have a Bird Dog Discord too, which
yes,
that's always a fun one.
It shows up here in the chat every now and then, thanks to Nightbot.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, it's called the unofficial, unsupported Bird Dog Discord or something like that. It's run by Beep Chirp, who I haven't seen in a while, but he's been busy. So, anyways, we have a good group of people around us and that are a part of the show on a regular basis, and we're always really grateful for those folks. But yeah, it's a good time. So, what is your synopsis on Toxic Waste sour candies?
They were pretty good, man. Like, I mean, I definitely don't recommend that for breakfast. Like, I had it, but it's definitely a good candy.
Yep, it is sour. It is not hazardously sour.
No, it's not. I remember that other brand being a lot more sour.
Yeah,
at least like the black cherry ones or something. I remember that just like destroying me when I was a kid.
I also think it's strange because it's candy, so they're not going to invest a whole lot in the marketing, but it's just a purple can.
Yeah.
And then it's a sticker. Are yours stickers? Mine are just stickers on here.
Yeah, mine are just stickers.
That are like it's not like painted or anything. It's there's nothing super exciting about it. They poured all their money into making of the candy, or maybe they're just trying to open up the margin. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Toxic Waste, I mean, if you like sour candy, okay. Not super sour. I wouldn't say hazardously sour.
No.
They're kind of like Warheads, kind of in that world. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll pass them around here. The guys in the office. We'll see if anybody else wants to try them. So
yeah, see what Clay thinks.
Yes. Yeah. We'll see what Clay thinks. Now Sanaya wants the candy that you guys have. Well, Toxic Waste. I bought it on Amazon, and I shipped one to Jake because I was like, you got to try this with me on the.
I'll have to.
On the thing. Yeah. So good stuff. All right. Well, it is 12:45 here in the Eastern time zone. So, Jake, man, thank you so much. Two shows in a row that you
I know it was a good time this week.
Volunteered to show some stuff off. I really appreciate that.
More than happy to. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're here, to be able to show a bunch of our whole the bird dog ecosystem.
And I think as things launch, like we're talking October, November, December, we need to do some more of this where having you and CJ and those guys back on to just show, what it is and what the features are.
I want to do like a camera director video soon too.
Yes.
We got to show that. And then, we have a lot of exciting things in the pipeline. So.
Yeah, so stay tuned, folks. There is a whole lot of stuff, and we're not even out of the end of the year yet. However, it is the end of September. If anybody else is paying attention,
this how's this going by so fast, man?
This whole year, man, has just been like I need to start like thinking about Christmas gifts for my kids and things, because it's going to be here, and if we stay as busy as we have been at work, there's not a whole lot of extra time to figure out the rest of the year. So. It all kicks off in October for me. The Canadians have their Thanksgiving early October.
Oh,
so that's like the beginning of fall. So it's like the first or second week of October. It's on a Monday. Okay. So that's got to be different.
Yeah.
So October, we get Thanksgiving number 1. And then the American Thanksgiving is end of November. And so there's Thanksgiving, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then it's like a mad dash to Christmas and New Year's, and then back into the start of a new year. And then come February, we're going to start talking about NAB again and start lining all that up. So it's a big, giant circle that keeps going around. I seriously feel like we just got done with Christmas, But nope, it's the end of
we're-
September,
Yep.
and the whole summer's gone by. I went
I
to
still
Alaska
feel like
this
NAB
year.
was like 3 weeks ago.
Exactly.
It's
It feels
it,
very much so like it was just a moment ago. But anyway, it continues. So I'm excited. The next year is going to be full of a lot of cool stuff here at Bird Dog, and some big stuff is gonna come out. And so stay tuned if you're a Bird Dog fan. And by all means, yeah, play is right around the corner.
Yep.
We are definitely, we're like right on the edge. I was thinking about this today and just thought, like, Bird Dog is still on the edge of a lot of that, like of the NDI world. And
it is. And the interesting thing, I mean, we know this because we've been in the NDI world for quite some time, but it's very new. Like AV over IP for a bunch of installations is kind of a new, avenue. So that's why I love this show, because I mean, I've been jumping on as soon as I found Bird Dog years ago, just to be able to have these conversations and learn directly from you and us and the rest of the team, to be able to, like, elevate your production quality. Right.
Yeah, and it gives you, like, if it's not like changing, if it doesn't change the end product, it creates at least a versatility that you didn't have before. Like, getting things into the IP world just ends up making things so much more versatile. And so, like I said, the things that are on the horizon are just, and the whole ecosystem concept is really going to take people's productions kind of to another world. So I'm excited about that. NetHab also wants to know, so end of September, we were supposedly getting a quad firmware update, or was that just supposed to be late January? That January update, that was a doozy. This is kind of a week to week thing. Honestly, the quad, if I'm just going to reveal what I can reveal, the quad is kind of like a Hydra, where we get one thing working and then something else is giving us a bug. And so we're really careful with this one, because we've released several firmwares that have patched things but also didn't patch things. And so the team is really hyper conscious about making sure that things are correct. So
exactly,
it's like the number one thing. I've been saying that for a long time, and I admit I have been saying that for a very long time. But it is the number one project that they are working on, and I'm watching it unfold in the actual project itself, from over here, and their day-to-day progress. So it is day in, day out. That's what they're kind of attending to. So yes, the update is very late. They're really trying hard to get it right, and that is one of the caveats of being on the edge of the technology, is that sometimes the thing that you think is super simple or straightforward ends up being very complex. And so that is admittedly what has happened with the quad unit, and it is expected any day. I don't know what I can't give you a time or a day.
I haven't checked the latest betas, but there's a new release, multiple times a week. So
yes, there are 100%.
Guys are hacking away at it.
Yeah, I can verify, and so can Pav, so can Jake. There are firmware, let's call them alphas, that are in the file that are daily updated, and so they're scrambling to get to a place where they can release it, and they can give you something that'll be of quality. So that is I can promise you that is exactly what's going on. But it is a tricky thing,
and we're definitely going to make a lot of news when that gets released,
my goodness,
and then the plays and all this stuff. There's going to be
it's going to be like
a whirlwind of Bird Dog social supports.
This channel alone is going to be talking about when those updates start hitting the market. You better believe that we are going to be doing all sorts of shows based on those, and test driving and showing it and proving it and all that sort of good stuff. So stay tuned. Good stuff coming up. A lot more stuff, just like Central, that's going to be versatile, and huge announcements that are part of that.
If you guys have any more questions about Central, push those emails over to hello or help at birddog.tv, right? To help us out and help you guys out to, talk about that workflow and any questions you have.
yeah, if you would like to get your hands, like the beta for Central is out now.
It is available now, so go ahead and download it.
Yeah, grab that off the website and or contact help or hello. We'll get you a handle on getting that. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty great. So I'm excited. I'm excited because to me, Central 1.0 had its place and had its like use case, but now Central 2 really should be a part of your toolkit if you have an NDI network.
It is. I mentioned this earlier, is that I 100% recommend having Central in every NDI installation.
Yep.
So whether it's light, whether it's pro, or if you're an enterprise customer and you need to have that SSO integration, besides just being able to API command and switch sources to destinations, the whole virtual router stuff is incredible. That playlist video on demand is amazing for content generation, across your network. And then the AV mixer is insane with Retransmitter. So there's definitely something that you would be able to use inside your production without a doubt with Central. That'll make, your life and the production smoother and easier to operate.
Yeah, even the audio function on that, where you don't have to run the auxiliary cable to the camera anymore.
And then I mean, that's huge. But then like also the PTZ keyboard thing, like when I realized that like we could subscribe that with the keyboard, I was like, this is a game changer, like in itself.
Well, I mean, that's been something that people have been asking for. Can I punch a button in vMix, or can I punch a button on Stream Deck and it will switch the source on the keyboard? Like that. I think that was requested when we launched keyboard. Yeah. Because they were like, well, it's great that I can punch these buttons and like program the function button to call the camera, but like what I really want to do is switch the camera on my own software, right, and it to follow me, right. And so so we had
like a piece of that, like with adding the API directly into the keyboard. Like I was using that in my vMix to like start and stop multi-quarter and mute and all that stuff, right, or switch sources. But the PTZ source didn't follow the API switch. Right. So now you can use your function buttons to talk to the virtual router and then have that virtual router be subscribed on the keyboard and you're ready to go. Yep. Yeah. I'll do a little video on that too, because I have it on the Stream Deck like you guys saw today, but I'll push it over to the keyboard.
Do me a favor, if there's a way to do it in vMix. Yeah, because that's the request, is they want to be able to switch the source in vMix and the keyboard to follow, so they're not switching it there and switching it here. Is that possible?
Yeah, so the command would be from vMix going to Central in that case. Yeah. Right? So you're using vMix to switch the Central source, and then as long as the keyboard is subscribed to that virtual Central source, it's there, ready to go. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
it's great.
It's awesome. Okay.
I mean, you guys saw how quick it was.
Like, yeah, we witnessed it. And if you didn't, feel free to go back and check that out, because it's definitely
instantaneous switching on a keyboard now. Yeah. Like that's crazy.
It's so much so, like, again, when Tom was on last week, this time, he had said, about vMix, he had said vMix is like a Lego set where you buy the Lego sets you want and you build the thing you want. And I thought, that's pretty much what BirdDog's up to at this point. Yep. Like
that's completely.
Yeah, we're building the Lego kits, and we're like, oh, you want to have these items together? Well, buy these kits, and and here are the features that do that. And so you can build the production that you envision. Yep. We're just giving you the pieces to do it, and then you add the ones and the appropriate levels. You can do light, pro, enterprise, whatever, and it gives you those options. So yeah, that's thinking cool. All right, man. Look, I've held you up for 2 hours. I really appreciate you joining me today.
Happy
special
to.
Thanks.
Always a great time.
Yeah, I love having you on here, and we need to get you on a schedule again so that we can talk about the next best thing that's coming up.
Awesome. And the next best candy or snacks on stream.
Yeah, snacks on stream. We got to coordinate that with you.
That was a great intro video. Like I hadn't seen that in a bit, and I was like, that was sick.
Yeah, that's just something I like tossed together. And I was talking to Reese about it when I was in Melbourne. And he's like, yeah, here's how I do it. And it's like pretty simple. And I thought I could just rip all those videos off of YouTube
Yep.
And then I realized for Snacks on Stream for a very long time, I had music in the background.
You did.
And so it didn't work. But I only actually ended up having a handful of shows where I didn't have music and was doing Snacks on Stream.
Right.
So that's why the Melbourne clip, there's a lot of the Melbourne clip in there, but that was the Vegemite thing. And it
and
is
then
kind
I remember Clay's Pop Rocks comment live. Like
yes.
that was hysterical.
Yeah, he's a good guy to have on the show because it's not scripted. We'll put it that way.
Definitely not scripted.
It's always fun to have some live conversation on the show. So
totally.
All right, Jake, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for hanging out with us. And folks, really appreciate you guys coming along for this ride. We are wrapping up another week, unbelievably, and we will be at it again next Tuesday. Now, there's no guarantee who or what we're going to talk about next Tuesday. And so on Tuesday, Thursdays, from 11 to at least 12 o'clock, I got to stop playing with this thing. I keep dropping it every time. From 11 to 12, we are here on this show and redefining how I do this show every single day. We got vMix running all of a sudden, which is like an unbelievable blasphemy here on the show. But here we are with vMix. I've changed the way that I ingest that video into StreamYard. We no longer output NDI, but we just use the external output, which was a suggestion from Michael. So shout out to Michael. He also talked about using dual NIC cards, and the link aggregate actually works pretty well. And lo and behold, I fired up a second NIC card while we were doing a central demonstration, and sure enough, here we are. Way less CPU usage than trying to generate NDI out of vMix and then ingest it into NDI webcam and then send that over. And so I've cut out a lot of the stuff, and vMix is now running the majority of this show. So I will definitely take it back that I have now a use case for this show to run vMix, and it is working quite well. And so good times. I'm learning all the time, and hopefully you are as well. So thanks for joining us on the show. Thanks for coming along this week for a couple of stints with Jake, who has shown us BirdDog Cloud. If you missed that on Tuesday, go back and watch Tuesday's show. We are going to clip that out as well, and I've sent those clips over to Melbourne to have our guy kind of nice those up a little bit. But we'll also do that here with this show so that the highlights, you don't have to watch all 2 hours, but you can watch the highlights about Central as well. So Cloud is up there. Central is now available, and we can answer any questions that you might have in regards to running either of these softwares. You can reach out to the pre-sales guys, if you've got questions before the sale at hello@birddog.tv. They would love to have a chat with you about what you're planning on doing and what options BirdDog might be able to offer you to get those things going. And Jake is one of those guys that helps with those conversations. And of course, my team over here at the support desk at help@birddog.tv. That will open a ticket for you, and we will do our absolute best to get back with you. Now, exciting news there is that we are currently interviewing for a couple of more agents to help Clay with those tickets and to cover additional time zones. And so as those conversations progress, we will be announcing that stuff. And no idea if those people would be interested in being on a support show while we chat about stuff. But maybe we need to bring them in. Maybe those are the first people that we have on the interview style. Who knows, right? Who knows? So maybe we'll think about that and force them to be on the show that they don't know what they're getting into. But definitely at least we'll have Clay back and we can talk about that a little bit more, because he's a good guy to have on the show, and he does his own streaming stuff every now and then. So hit us up at help@birddog.tv. We can definitely help you with your post-sales questions. Hey, how can I get my thing to do this thing that I envisioned it to do? We answer that question all the time. And we would love it if all the questions that came into the help desk were just like super simple and easy, but that's not the case. And so we want to come alongside you and help you make your production as good as it possibly can be. So hit us up at help. In the meantime, though, if your questions can wait, join me on Tuesday at 11 to 12 Eastern time, and I would love to have a chat with you about what it is that you're up to here on the show. And if you ask the question in the chat, someone else who is watching or later on is watching after the fact might have that same question, and we might be able to answer it for multiples. So please, please, please feel free to come back on Tuesday and Thursday at 11 to 12, or after 12 and hang out with us there. Take care of yourselves. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. It's coming up real quick, and I'm excited about that. And we will see you in a few days. It'll be Tuesday right away. It'll be October, right? Next Tuesday is October. It'll be October 4th. So join me in the new month as we look forward to all of those things that we have planned for the rest of the year here at Bird Dog. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in just a couple of days. Bye, guys.
Resistance is futile.